I think that the number obviously changed. We got inflation and stuff like that. Let me see where it was.
I don't
How
think it's a
much is
number.
how much is enough? How much do you have to have? Obviously, we know that being a high value man, um, is more to it, right? Obviously, there's additional things that goes along with being a high value man. However, I think the question is a good question, considering that everybody got a different thing. People acting like certain amounts ain't the same as what it used to be. How much is does a man have to make in order to be a high value man in your opinion?
Well, I think you gotta first differentiate wealth between income. I don't know if everybody understands that. Um,
That's
so are
true.
you talking about income or are you talking about wealth?
His question was man to man, how much is considered a high value man per year?
Per
Per year?
year.
He talking about
It's
income.
it's so much. It's so much like perspective. There's so many levels to this. Because obviously, like I can make as much money in a month that certain people can't fathom. Then Anton might make a certain amount of money in a month that I can't fathom. Or and then Bill Gates and like it's so many levels to this. There's so many doors that certain people can't get in that other people can get in. But I guess in a general sense, a realistic sense, hmm. It used to be like just 100,000, but that's no.
It used to be six figures.
I would say 500,000 at
I think
least.
it's still six figures. I just think it's higher than
High
one
six
hundred
figures.
Higher
thousand.
than what? Higher
I
than
don't
like
know.
buck 70 or up.
I think half a
200.
million.
I think a man can make about 80K and still be a high value. Well, I don't even like the word high value. That's dumb.
Well, he said a
But
year. This is strictly money,
80K
not
about a
his moral.
year.
Living
No,
where?
I'm just saying, huh?
Is he living on his
Living
own?
where?
Well, I mean, because the point is, you could make a lot of money and be completely terrible with money. You can't keep money,
That's
and you
true
could
too.
not
But
make
you said
six
80K
figures or
though.
more,
Hold on,
but you can
let
be
her,
you can manage it well. You know how to invest it well. So, you know what I mean? Do you know how many millionaires go broke? Like that doesn't mean anything a year. Just that I don't think making a certain amount a year makes you high value
Well,
because
that
some
wasn't the
men can't
question
keep
though.
it.
Well, eventually, that person who is managing well and investing well, they will become that at a certain point. It's just a gradual climb, but eventually they'll be making that money.
But the question was how much to be a high, not what is a high value man. So we're
We
literally
gotta
just talking
define
about
high
the.
value. We gotta
Well,
define
I'm
it
Well,
just
first.
saying, I
let's
don't
that's
just
a
stay
whole
know.
on
other
let's
thing.
I gave
let's
a
stay on the
number though.
finance
I said
part.
80K. You could
So
still be
Molly's answer is 80. Mont said a half an M per year. Q Diddy,
Quarter 250.
250, quarter million says Q Diddy. And obviously, we know it's a lot of intangibles. How you spend it, whether you got a lot of debt, but we're just gonna stay surface level. Kim,
I think I'll go with 300.
okay.
I
Mika,
think I want. I think I want to drop mine lower too.
I say 2K.
He said I changed my
200K.
mind.
I think I want to go to because I was just thinking like, what
Yeah.
would I consider a man
Yeah.
that make good money? But I do think if you making 200 to 300K, and you doing well for yourself, you you got your where you stay, you got a nice spot, it's clean, you got your car or your couple cars, and you can take a woman wherever she want to eat. You can live comfortably. I think that's enough.
I agree.
I'm
yeah,
thinking about like your house. Like, what kind of house are you getting for 200,000?
Well, if your
Well, if you
income
make
is
200,000 a year,
200,
then you're getting a pretty big house
if your income is 200 to 300,000 a year, you would qualify
for a
probably
million.
technically for
Right. You're going to
a
qualify for something
million
nice,
dollar
but what
house.
can you afford?
A
that's true
million.
too. That's true too.
You can afford.
Well,
He
she's
might not.
asking a question. I think it's a fair question.
He might
Well,
not
I,
want a
I
house.
think that
Maybe
would
he want
depend on where you
a condo.
live because um, there are houses here in Maryland that me personally I don't think should be a day over 90K, and they're
Right.
like 400,000.
Right.
So
And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at what used to be, let's say even in 2020, 300,000 is now 550, you know, and up. So it's just like, okay, we're just looking at just house alone. And so high value, I mean, high value is
I
not
think it
everything
depends
bad.
on I think it depends on. So yeah, that becomes circumstantial, though, right? Because I think that a guy that lives in $1 million, $2 million, $3 million house that is paying a mortgage on it is much different than a guy that lives in a $500,000-$600,000 house. And obviously, we know that different areas is different, right? But in general, it's much different than a guy that lives in a $500,000-$600,000 house,
And
but
it's
he
paid off.
don't have no mortgage, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I
So
was gonna
it's
say.
different.
Because some men can make 6 figures and still be living paycheck to paycheck. So I don't think the money
Well,
even makes you high
You can
value.
you
There
can
are a
make
lot of
millions
6 figure
and live
earners.
paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, it's a
well,
lot of
then
people who live paycheck to paycheck who you would think would be wealthy, but they're paycheck to paycheck.
and then you have to think about again where you live because I've seen the I've seen the houses in California, and some of
Bro,
those are $1 million
that
houses,
$1 million
and
And
I
they're
shack.
can fit like
small.
3 of those in my house.
Right.
But
Right.
that's why I said it depends on where you live, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
like
crazy.
it's not uncommon for like regular in certain areas of Miami could be two, three, $4,000 a month for a place that's a 1 or 2 bedroom, right? But then there's places that you could basically get for 50,000 or 60 or $70,000 a month. So it depends. It depends on where you are. It depends on where you want to live, and it depends on how you stunt. But my point is just that um, if we just doing it on a basic level, for me, I think that a 250,000 in the right area per year um, is probably considered high value.
Oklahoma's
For
super
sure.
cheap. Just saying.
A certain amount of money gives you access to pretty much anything that you would need. You gives you access to pretty much date any woman for the most part
Yeah,
in the realm of regular. It probably gives you access to really drive any car that you want. Like you can have a Range Rover, a Mercedes,
Nigga, that's
and live
cheap,
in a nice
nigga.
little condo. So you know,
Yeah, because I was gonna say after a certain amount, right? Even in the 6 figures, after a certain amount, what really can't you do?
That's
a
what I
lot
was
you can't
thinking. Like,
do.
what's the difference between like 250 and 300? Like, there ain't really a big difference.
So they the same, but it's a lot you can't do. Like
yeah,
What
but
you
they used
mean?
to say 6 figures, right?
Yeah,
That's
they
a big
did. Yeah.
gap because you're talking about
Yeah.
the difference between
A
$100,000
hundred
a year and nine
And
nine
hundred thousand.
thousand.
250. Yeah. Yeah.
You
You're right. You're right.
know what I'm saying? So 6 figures is a big gap, or it's a wide range. But you know, I think that if once a guy start making, if you can ever as a man, and I'm just being 100% real with you, if you ever get to the point in your life where you can make, if you can clear 40,000 a month, the world is yours, bro. And I know that that's a big number. It's a big number. If you can clear 40 bands a month at some point in your life, everything is going to change. Everything.
depends on how you manage it though. And like, are we talking about a
Don't
man with
matter how you
kids?
manage your mind.
What about with kids?
It's hard to trick off
Yeah,
40K a
they don't
month,
cost
bro.
that much.
Shit.
I mean, I could do it, but I'm just saying, like,
I mean, that's
40K,
that's
it
nigga?
takes
technically a
dedication
half
to
a
just throw it
million.
all away.
Think about it from this
That's like a
perspective.
$500,000.
If you spend 40, if you can make 40,000 a month, right? If you can clear 40,000 a month, when you first really start to get to that point, if it's new to you, your first year and a half,
You're gonna do
you're
some
gonna be
dumb
tricking
shit.
anyway.
You're gonna do some dumb shit.
You got to get it out your system, right? So
Mhm.
you're gonna be doing the stuff for the kids, and you might be, take a couple vacations or 2 or 3 or 4 vacations or whatever, right? You may get the cars. After the first year of you getting that under your belt and getting your beak wet, you're gonna settle into yourself, and that's when chances are you'll probably increase it a little bit more at that point. But my point is that at that point, let's say in that first year, let's say you trick it off that month, you going to get another 40 and another 40 and another 40. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna you know, it's like an NFL player when they first get into the league and they first start making money. They usually trick off their first contract. If they lucky enough to get a second contract, that's when they start really doing some shit. That's when you pay off all of the debt, you clear up all of the stuff, and then that's when you start to fit. But you can make something shake. You can really make something shake at 30 to 40,000 a month. As a man, if you get to that point and you can clear that, and again, I know it's a high number, but shoot for that shit. Shoot for it because you will absolutely, because now you talking about the kids ain't got to worry about going to college and taking out no student loans.